Yay, it's working. Happy Monday, besties and bosses. How was everyone's weekend? I've got Instagram with us as well. Hello, everyone who's just joining. Nice to have you. See a couple. I see Cobine House. I see Shamana. I can never say these names right on Instagram. I see Shoshana. You see Wander Burstein for good. Thank you all for being here. And besties and bosses, thank you for being here. I was just saying on Instagram, I had an awesome weekend, really great weekend, relaxing, spending some great time with my guy. We got a lot done, and I also got to meet one of my online business friends in real life, someone who's in the Facebook group, Besties and Bosses, and that was really fun, and it just made this online world feel so much smaller, and it just, as a side tangent, not what we're talking about today, but just such a reminder that I think we're so lucky. We live in such an amazing time where we have this tool of social media. And I think sometimes as we get into social media strategy and marketing and business, we forget that really and truly this is a tool to connect us with one another, and that there are real people on the other side of these platforms, whether it's Facebook or social media or whatever we're using. And anytime I get to meet someone in person, it's just such a beautiful reminder of how great social media can be for us, and how much it's a beautiful way for us to get in front of our people, in front of our tribe, connect with people that we'd never have a chance to meet otherwise. So just such a lovely part of this weekend. See a couple other people joining on Instagram. Thank you all for joining. Today, what I want to talk about, though, is not social media. I want to talk about our zone of excellence and our zone of genius in our business. And I want to talk particularly about leaning into our zone of genius, and how one of the ways I see a lot of my clients get stuck, especially when they first come to me, and a lot of the way I see a lot of my clients hiding in plain sight and really sabotaging their business success, the amount of impact and income they can make, is leaning into their zone of excellence instead of their zone of genius. And hey, I don't know who just joined on Facebook, but thanks for being here. And so I want to have a conversation around this, because I think this is something for a lot of us can be really prevalent. I think especially for the high achievers out there, who I know a lot of my group are high achievers, I think this can be a really common place that we hide out in, a place that feels really comfortable, really safe, that we tend to get some results in. And it's also a place that we can really hit a ceiling and sabotage the larger success we can have, as well as the happiness and fulfillment and joy we can have in our business, which is why most of us do this in the first place. Thank you all for who are just joining in. We're just getting started. Let's talk a little bit about this concept first, and then we can break down how this sabotages our business, as well as how leaning into our zone of genius can impact our business, and just some of the things that can come up around that. And for those of you who are joining, feel free to say hi. Let me know if this resonates. Facebook, I don't know if I have the comments working well. I know we did our masterclass last week and I couldn't see them until afterwards. Ooh, I see I see Andrew, and I see, is it Farah? How do I say your name? Faraya, is that correct? Let me know if I'm saying your name correctly. Hey, Jennifer, nice to have you all here. We are just getting started, and Instagram, say hello as well. So, zone of genius, zone of excellence, why does this even matter? So I don't know who here has read Gay Hendricks, the author of The Big Leap, the book The Big Leap. He talks a lot about our zone of genius and versus our zone of excellence. And so just to break this down so everyone knows what I'm talking about here, he describes this as three different things. We have our zone of competence, which I don't think anyone, if you're in this space, I don't think anyone is working in their zone of competence for the most part. Our zone of competence is that stuff we can do, but we're really not good at. For me, it's creating social media graphics. That is my zone of competence. I can do it competently. I'm not great at it. Versus our zone of excellence, which is where I find, okay, Faria's, is it Faria? Am I saying that right? Let me know if I'm pronouncing that right, because it's important to me. Names are important. It's important to me that I get that correct. Faria. Versus our zone of excellence. So our zone of excellence, this is where I would guess the majority of people are hanging out. And I think it's sneaky, because I think some of us think we're hanging out in our zone of genius, but I cannot tell you how many passion-driven, heart-centered entrepreneurs I work with who, when they come to me, the reason they're not hitting their impact and income goals is because they're in their zone of excellence. Our zone of excellence is something we're excellent at. It's what we're really good at. It's something we've mastered. It's something we can do really well. Oftentimes we're compensated for it. We get compliments for it. But it's not our zone of genius. Our zone of genius is what we were put on this earth to do. It is what lights us up. It is what just fulfills every cell in our body. It is what we can do so well, and we can do it in a way other people can't. It's usually where, if you're a business owner, where you can stand out from other people, it's something that sometimes comes easily to you, and that can make people feel guilty. And yet most of us are hanging out in our zone of excellence because our zone of genius can be a really scary place to hang out in. And hey, everyone who's just joining in, let me know if this is making sense, and let me know if this is resonating. Faria says, big fan of The Big Leap. It's such a great book. And for those of you who haven't read the book, The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks talks all about upper limits, which is this ceiling, the self-imposed ceiling that most of us have, this idea that most of us have a level of success we can hit that we're comfortable in, success, happiness, income, love, that we're able to essentially hit. And once we hit that, anything further starts to feel really uncomfortable and outside our comfort zone. And so what we do is we will sabotage our way back to what feels comfortable. And for most of us, our zone of excellence is outside our comfort zone. It is past this ceiling. It is past this upper limit. And our zone of excellence is what feels really comfortable. It feels really safe. It feels like a nice little cozy blanket. And this is where most of us are hanging out in. And I find a lot of business owners are hanging out in this space. And this is why, again, we're not making the money we want, or we're not making that impact we want, or we're finding ourselves feeling really burnt out. Burnout isn't always just from working too hard. Burnout often is from not feeling fulfilled by the work we're doing. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this as a side tangent. You can work all day long on something you love, and it feels like you've just been playing and having fun all day, versus working on something that drains you. You can work on it for an hour and it can hit you into that burnout phase. And so this is where oftentimes burnout, yes, it has to do with working hard and having too many hours on our plate that we're spending time doing things, but usually it's more what's underneath the work, and oftentimes it's because we're not completely aligned to our work. And so I talk a lot. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the thumbs up. Totally resonating, Fish Food Friday says. I'm glad this is resonating. What I find for a lot of us, I talk a lot about hiding in plain sight. This idea that we can be visible, we can show up online, we can post on Instagram every day, we can put offers out there, we can start a business, and yet we're hiding in plain sight. I think a lot of us are hiding behind this mask of excellence, the zone of excellence. I think a lot of us are hiding behind, I call them shadow offers and shadow ideal clients. Offers of things that feel really comfortable, but not what we really, really want to do. We're offering our work to these shadow ideal clients, people we feel safe offering our work to, but not the people we really want to work with, because we're terrified of getting rejected. We're terrified of what will happen if we go for what we really, really want to do. And I think a lot of us are hiding essentially in plain sight. We're showing up. It's not that we're not doing the work. It's not that we're not putting in the effort. It's not that we're not sharing our voice. We're just pulling back just a little bit. And it's really sneaky because, and again, this is where I think this falls into the case for a lot of my clients who are high achievers, because from the outside looking in, if someone didn't have an inside lens into your mind and into your business, from the outside world looking in, it seems like you're out there, you're visible, you're doing the thing, you are proud, you're bold. But if we were to peel back a few layers, you'd say, yeah, but there's this thing I really want to do. Or here's the work I really want to share with the world. Or here's what I'm really good at. Or actually, I started my business 5 years ago to be an ex, to be a coach. And somehow along the way, I turned into a virtual assistant because, I don't know, I'm really good at it. And people started hiring me for them. People started paying me money for it. And so now I'm operating in my zone of excellence. I'm really good at it. But it is not where my heart's at. It is not where my soul is at. It is not even where my zone of genius is at. And I'm hitting a ceiling. I'm hitting this upper limit. Just seeing if we have any comments here. I'm glad I'm seeing them on Facebook today. So let me know, because I get all revved up, y'all. I talk really fast sometimes. Let me know if this is making sense. And if any of you have ever experienced this, you don't have to share if you don't want to. I know sometimes that can make us feel a little vulnerable. But I know this is really common, because what, again, I find is I'll have clients come to me and they don't understand. This is just leaning into how this sabotages our success. They don't understand why they're doing all the things. They've got all the strategy down. They've got their messaging down. They're putting themselves out there. They're doing all the work. They're on social media. They're marketing. They've had a launch, and their results are not what they were hoping for. Their results are not what they envisioned. Or they feel like they're stuck on this treadmill in their business where they're working, and it feels a little empty. They don't even really know if they want to hit that next level. They're feeling, again, a little burnt out, and they kind of secretly don't like parts of their business. And oftentimes when we peel back the layers, it's because they're hanging out in their zone of excellence. And Gay Hendricks talks about this, jumping from our zone of excellence to our zone of genius. I think this sounds like, well, that's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I just do that? And I think what happens is this brings up so much for a lot of us. Again, especially for the high achievers out there, especially for those of us who have learned to derive our sense of self-worth and our sense of achievement and our sense of placement in the world through outside appraisal, through people telling us we're doing a great job, through people saying, you're so good at this. Oftentimes our zone of excellence is really easy for us, and we are getting that outside appraisal, that outside feedback, that outside reinforcement, and oftentimes we are making some income, so it can be really tricky to step away from that. And oftentimes our zone of genius, what I find for a lot of my clients, it usually involves getting out of hiding in plain sight. It usually involves some sort of vulnerability, some sort of authenticity, some story, something that they're a little scared to share with the world because it's really close to their heart, and it can feel like I'm outing myself. I'm coming out of the proverbial business closet, and what if people reject me? What if people don't like this? What if my zone of genius isn't actually good enough? What if people don't want this? And then I ruin my zone of excellence, and then I ruin everything I've been doing. The VA example, this is someone I've worked with, so that's why I can use this example. The fear there is, I've built this up, it's not my zone of genius, but it's working for me, and I'm making money, and it's good enough. I'm happy. I feel like I should be lucky. I feel like I should be grateful. But this thing that is my zone of genius, the thing I really want to do, the way I really want to share my message with the world, if I start putting myself out there, what's everyone going to think? What are my clients going to think? What are my family and friends on my Facebook group my friends that I've known since middle school, what are they going to think? And it can start to bring up all the stuff. And so again, we hit that limit, we hit that ceiling, and we end up staying in our zone of excellence. But as we do that, we're hitting a ceiling. We're limiting ourselves on that income we can make and on that impact we can make. I'm just seeing here on Instagram, and okay, I'm going to see if Faria, I think I'm saying this right, says totally making sense. Day job equals zone of excellence. I want a coach, which is my zone of genius. And so that is an awesome example. And I think just to speak to this doesn't mean our zone of excellence is bad. Your zone of excellence, your day job, that's a beautiful thing. That is a gift. It is paying your bills. It is allowing you, I'm assuming, to pursue your zone of genius. I think where our zone of excellence gets us in trouble is when it starts to feel so comfortable and we have it so good in our zone of excellence. We're making great money. It's not so bad. We've got some great friends maybe there, that it keeps us from stepping into our zone of genius, that it ends up being, again, this way we hide in plain sight, and this way we really just stay in the zone of excellence and never get to step into this other zone, because it is elite. It is a scary step. I'm just seeing these comments coming so slow, y'all. I apologize. I'm just getting them a little bit slow. Faria says, you've got it. That's how you say my name. Yes. And she says, yep, exactly. Instagram, I'm getting hard eyes, so I'm assuming that means that this resonates. But let me know, for those of you who are on as well, if this is clicking, if you've experienced this, if you've been in that zone of excellence, or if you're in your zone of genius, if you've really experienced what that difference is, or if you're hanging out in your zone of competence. Now, I think another place to speak to here, I can Instagram. I never can read the handles because I swear I'm getting a little blind. It's I am Rich Everett says, yep, it clicks. Thank you. I'm glad to hear this clicks. I'm showing my age. I'm getting a little blind. It cracks me up. What I was going to say here is, I think one of the things that also can trip us up here, and that I want to be really mindful to speak to, is, and I think where some of the confusion can come from, is we hear all of this, and then I think we can do what we often do when we hear about new concepts. We either stay stuck or we do a 0 to 60. And so we go from, let's say we're in our zone of competence, we think that, or our zone of excellence, we think that means that we need to burn everything behind us down and just hang out in our zone of genius. And so let's say your zone of genius is coaching and your day job is your zone of excellence and you're starting your business. I think what some people can do, and where we can start to sabotage our success in a whole nother way, and I think this is subconscious because we don't really believe or trust in our zone of genius, is, again, we'll make this huge jump and we'll burn everything else down. So like, all right, zone of excellence, bye-bye day job, I'm just gonna quit you. And my zone of competence for me, let's say that's making social media graphics. I suck at that, I don't wanna do that, so I'm just not gonna do them. Or I'm just gonna hire everything out at the start when maybe I'm not ready to do it yet. And I think this is where the conversation gets interesting. We want to start to get clear on our zone of genius. And I think this is also where our niche, our magical niche, lives with our audience and our work and who our audience is. And we want to start to lean more and more into this, become aware of this, do more of this every day. But we also, I saw an angry face, so hopefully that doesn't mean someone's angry and they're just pressing the button on Facebook. But we also want to be mindful of our zone of competence and our zone of excellence and the role they play for us as we're evolving and growing. And we don't need to just burn everything down behind us. Sometimes our zone of competence is a really great place for us to look for insights and clues into what our zone of genius is if we're not sure. Sometimes getting really clear on that can be really great information. And sometimes it's a stepping stone. You know, sometimes we need to step stone from our zone of competence into our zone of excellence, into our zone of genius. And that's okay. I think what we want to do is constantly expand what our vision is of our zone of genius and constantly move forward step by step into more of our zone of genius. And I like to think about if we write these things out. Thanks for the wave. Nice to have, oh, nice to see you, Bernadette. Nice to have you here. What I like to think about is if we write these things down on a piece of paper is we're always moving towards our zone of genius and we're always working towards eliminating or hiring out our zone of competence and having less and less of our zone of excellence. And so if we start to list these things out, it doesn't mean we're just burn things down. It doesn't mean they don't serve a purpose. But what we can see is every month, let's say we're about to step into the month of March. Right now, where am I hanging out? And what do I need to do to what's one thing I can do to step into my zone of genius more? What's one way I can step out of my zone of competence more and move from my zone of excellence into my zone of genius? Let me know if this makes sense. I've heard, what's his name? Oh, it's one of the male coach gurus, whose name I can't think about. He talks about this as an ABC method. So he's always working on having more of his A, that would be your zone of genius, more of his A efforts, hanging out in that B zone and eliminating C's, so that every month what you're doing is you're shifting, where what your zone of excellence is now might actually shift into your zone of competence as you step more into your zone of excellence. So it becomes kind of this rotating wheel where we're constantly moving things out and stepping forward into where that zone of genius is. And I think this is a way we can naturally evolve instead of burning things down behind us and sabotaging ourselves that way and just trying to go from 0 to 60. Often those smaller steps serve us a lot better. Let me know, those of you who are live, if that is, okay, yep, that makes sense. Okay, I'm glad to hear that makes sense. Sometimes my examples make sense to me and I wanna make sense they're clicking with all of you. Now, I think something else that's important for our business, and just in terms of, we were talking about how this affects our impact and income, our zone of genius, and how this, the more we lean into our zone of genius and we get clear on this, and the more we shift into that, and the more we start to hire out our zone of competence, we get to shift away from our zone of excellence and into our zone of genius. The way this affects our impact and income, this is where we really can start to think about niching down. And I think this is something we hear a lot about in business. And it can be, I don't know, when I started my business and I heard niche, did I say niche or niche? When I heard niching down and niching, I was sort of like, this is overwhelming. I don't know what my niche is. I don't know what this means. And I felt like I was just trying to randomly pick things. I think of our niche really as our zone of genius. And the more we can lean into our zone of genius, the more we start to go from a really wide approach in our business to a more narrow and focused approach in our business. And that's what niching is all about. And this is where the business gold is. I live in New York City. This is a funny example, but I think this is a good way to think about it. I don't know who's been to New York City, who's visited here. On the corner streets, we have a lot of these delis you can go into. And when you go in there, they kind of serve everything. You can get, at one counter, they'll make you an acai bowl. At another counter, they'll make you a juice. They'll make you stir fry. They'll make you pizza. They have like hot plates of food. You can get kind of a hodgepodge of little bit of everything. And the food is pretty much mediocre at best, if not a little disgusting, but in a pinch when you need food, you'll go and grab it. Versus there are a lot of restaurants in New York City that are famous, that are well known, that are doing really well, that are really narrowed in. They have a menu with maybe 4 or 5 items, 6 items, 10 items. They're really narrowed in and specialized in what they offer you. And this is how I like to think about zone of excellence, zone of competence, and zone of genius, and how this has to do with niching in our business. That corner store, it's doing fine. It's okay. It's a little bit of that generalization, that really wide approach. They're trying to be something to everyone. They're trying to appeal to everyone. They're trying to serve to everyone. They're hanging out in their zone of, honestly, I think it's their zone of competence, if not incompetence, but they'd say their zone of excellence. Versus when you start to get into these restaurants that are, you read about them in magazines. They have a waiting list to get a table for months and months and months. These are the restaurants that are really narrowed in, they're focused in, they're really clear and specific on their zone of genius, what they make really well. Maybe they just make dumplings. That's all they make, but they make them better than anyone else. And because of this, they're in their zone of genius. And because of this, this is how they start to put their name on the map. This is how they start to stand out from the crowd. This is how they start to narrow in on their audience, what they do. They can do it better than anyone else, and instead of having this wide approach. And this is how this zone of genius and narrowing in starts to impact their overall influence in the industry and their income that they're making. Because if you're looking for really great dumplings, when you come to New York City, that's what's going to pop up and that's where you're going to go. Versus a zone of excellence restaurant would probably just be that regular, it wouldn't even be the corner store, that's your zone of competence. It would be some place in the city that just does, I don't know, okay Chinese food. I think that's a way to start to think about this and how this really affects our business bottom line, that money we're making, the clients we're attracting, the income we're bringing in, and just overall in the landscape of our business, how we can start to stand out and differentiate. Okay, I see comments here. I just want to see if I'm missing anything. Hey, Manisha. Hey, is it Oils for Families? I see Inspire. I see Ashley. Going right. This is Happy High Life. Thank you all for being here. Let me know, those of you who are joining, if this is clicking. Facebook, let me know if this is clicking as well. Going back to the restaurant analogy, just to wrap this up. Hey, thank you for the wave. I think the more we start to think about it this way, the more we can start to take ourselves from generalized to kind of specialized to really niched in. And that's where our zone of genius is. This is where our marketing gold lives. This is where we can get really clear and specific and talk to our audience in a way like we really know and understand them. This is where we can start to create offers that are so specific and results driven that our people want to have them. This is where we can start to have our message really impact people. And I think I'm freezing on Facebook, so hopefully you all can still hear me. I see my face freezing as I'm speaking, which is always a funny thing. This is how we can start to have a bigger impact. And this is how we can start to grow our business and really increase our income, because the people on the other side from us, they're not looking for a generalized solution. They're not looking for a zone of competence. They're not looking for a zone of excellence. When you come to New York City and you want to have the best dumplings ever, the best meal ever, you're not looking for that corner deli. If you are, it's probably when you've been out drinking and it's at 2 in the morning and you're willing to spend like $5 on them. The people who are coming, who want to drop some cash on a really great meal, who are spending time researching, who really want to get on a waiting list and invest in a meal, if you're coming to New York City, you're looking for the best. You're looking for someone who's making those dumplings in their zone of genius. Such a weird example. And now I'm hungry. Health coach Sarah, hi, nice to have you here as well. Brian, Keith, Gable, nice to have you here. Thank you all for joining. And so, what do I want to leave you with? I wanted to leave everyone with an invitation to start to look again at your business and where are you hiding in plain sight? Where do you have shadow offers? Where do you have shadow ideal clients? Where are your offers and ideal clients really hanging out in that zone of excellence? I have a feeling no one here is in their zone of competence. And what would it take? What would you need to do to get a little uncomfortable, to get past that ceiling, that upper limit, and to shift into your zone of genius? What would that look like? What would you be offering? A lot of times for some of us, this means getting rid of a few offers. This means, again, narrowing in. And I think for those of you who are Seth Godin fans, Seth Godin always talks about what does he say? Find a niche, not a nation. He always talks about finding the smallest viable audience. That's what our zone of genius is. Our zone of genius is finding the smallest viable audience and speaking directly to them. That's how we create impact. That's how we create income. Find the dumplings in your business and your business will skyrocket and you will stand out from other people. All right, I see a comment here. Andrew's giving me the high fives and the looks like the hungry face. All right, y'all, that is what I've got for you. Now, hopefully everyone is hungry. If you're on the West Coast, you're gonna have to get some lunch. If you're on the East Coast, you can go get some dumplings for dinner. For those of you who are in New York City with me, you'll have to let me know where the best dumplings are. I don't even know the last time I had dumplings. I want to inspire everyone today, encourage everyone today to constantly be on that lookout, be in that cycle of how can I get rid of, hire out that zone of competence? How can I turn my zone of competence into my zone of excellence? Where I'm in my zone of excellence, how can I narrow in on that, get even better at that, get outside my comfort zone, and get more and more into my zone of excellence? So I'm constantly moving this cycle through and stepping more into my zone of excellence. And I want to remind everyone as we do this, what this means is our zone of excellence is not stagnant. So I think what we can do is we can step into our zone of excellence, and again, we can start hiding in plain sight because that becomes the new normal and that becomes comfortable. So we constantly want to find new ways to get uncomfortable and to continue to get clear on what that zone of genius is. So we're constantly stepping outside our comfort zone and we're constantly narrowing in with our message, with our work, with our offers, with our impact. All right. That's what I've got for you all this week. Thank you for hanging out with me. Just seeing if we have any comments here. Let me know if you have any questions before I jump off. And if not, I will see all of you, Facebook group, I'll see you in the group this week, and I will see you all next Monday with another topic, and we will dig in there. And for those of you, I'm shifting up the Facebook Lives, Instagram Lives a little bit. If there's any topics you're dying to hear about, let me know because I've started planning the next few weeks and month of content. So I'm always loving to hear what you'd like some more support around, what you're curious about, what you want to hear more about. So let me know, and I will take that into mind. All right. Bye, y'all. Happy Monday. I'm going to say bye here. Have a good week, y'all.